Every season of life asks something different of us. Some seasons ask us to build, others ask us to persevere. And then there are the seasons that ask us to release, to let go of the relationships we've outgrown, to stop forcing doors that no longer open, to trust what we've sensed all along, even when acting on it feels uncomfortable. In this episode of Executive Lessons in Love, I sit down with Ber-Henda Williams for a conversation that explores what it means to become more rooted rather than simply more successful. Together, we discuss friendship, grief, legacy, intuition, and the quiet refinement that often shapes us long before anyone else notices the change. Because becoming isn't always about discovering something new. Sometimes it's about finally honoring what you've known all along. I'm Arnitris L. Strong, and this is Executive Lessons in Love.
And watch your relationship finally grow. You've been the expert all along, just needed someone to show you where you belong. Executive lessons, lessons in love.
Better relationship decisions begin with better judgment. Love Elevated with Arnitris.
All right, we are back with another episode of Executive Lesson in Love, and today I am joined with the beautiful Ber-Henda Williams. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
And I noticed that you speak with a lot of intention. What has taught you to trust your own voice enough to stand in that consistent?
Ooh, I love that question because I would say I'm walking through that or maybe rewalking through that. And I am a very emotionally transparent person. What you see is what you get. I cry in public. So I'm going to answer this with honesty. It costs me every time I ignore it. There's a cost to it. And not always financial, although that it could be part of the cost. But it's an energy drain and leak. And when I trust my knowing and when I trust when God speaks to me, it's always better. And anyone who is on a faith walk journey, you'll recommit. And when you get taken higher, I believe that the explanation, you just got to do it. There's no explanation. You don't ask questions. It's either you do it or you don't do it. And the why reveals itself. But as we're told so many times, obedience is greater than sacrifice.
So tell me, you said that it costs you. What area would you say that ignoring that knowing has been the most expensive?
I've definitely felt it in the wallet, for sure. I've felt it but I've also felt it in the form of conviction.
Because and I think when you think about in the wallet, I would think that that would be the least of your concerns because we can recover money, right? When we're talking about investing time and your love and attention in spaces that there's no return on that investment, that is so expensive. And I love that you brought that home. I don't think that I'm in a season now where I'm really evaluating the relationships that I have and trying to be really cognizant about where I am expending energy. And I've had to have some hard conversations with people that I love about I'm going to have to fall back. I'm not going to be available in this season. That's not to mean that it might not come around in a few years, but in this season, I'm really being intentional about pouring in to Arnitris. My baby girl is getting ready to graduate from college in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, I feel like Jody's mama on baby boy. Mama got to have a life too. I'm calling back my energy from places where I have invested and not really seen a return on the investment. And so that means that I've had to have some really hard conversations. There are some relationships where I didn't even have a conversation because I know that the emotional maturity wasn't there to receive it in the way that I intended. It's really interesting and it's so beautiful to open my timeline and see all of the women talking about becoming and pouring into themselves. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is. I don't know if it's something that happens when you hit that 30, 40 mark, but it's like, wait a minute. It's time for me to really love on me, ensure that everybody who is in my inner circle is loving on me as well. So I love to see it. I really love to see it.
We are in a 1 year. So in the universal sense of when we look at our numbers, and so we know that numbers have huge significance, right? We look at the third day, rose again. We look at the 40 days, 40 nights. When I tell you this Lent season, our interest was, when I say it was just for me, no, it was. And additionally, what I look at, especially when we go through that season of purge and walking in the valley, my mother passed during Lent. So years ago, my mom passed during the Lenten season. And so each season that it comes, it is like a death and rebirth, but
Yeah.
more intensely. And so when you said relationships, that is probably where we're going to feel it the most. It's never really outside. It's always within, or that closer circle. And as I started the conversation about trust, where the trust and the faith all have to show up. But that's been my partner since. But we go way, when
Yeah.
we're in a one, we're doing a new thing. We're all over again. And so relationships and contracts and maybe some of the things that you have grown to rely on, or we only can rely on one. And so anything that we put before God, that can become our idol. And so many of us worship the degrees that we have, or the affiliations, or the connections. We think that that's the source. And when we are intentional about business, all matter of business, you're going to be called apart. So you're not going to do it like everybody else. Your KPIs are not going to look like everybody else's. Favor ain't fair. You're going to walk through doors. Your name will be in rooms. It will not be on your spreadsheet. And it's not going to be because you were trending or you hit viral on a post. I've had posts that have laid dormant for years and I thought nobody was paying attention. And then all of a sudden, and I'm scrolling, I'm like, wait a minute, I posted that 8 years ago.
I'm learning that we have to be so intentional in every area of lives. And that relationship, I think we didn't get the education that we needed around how important that aspect of your life is, because it affects every other area of your life. And I'm not just talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about friends. I'm talking about family. I'm talking about work. And I've just been really taking a step back for a moment and take a look at the people around me and saying, wait a minute, you've been in my circle all this time. You don't even really like me.
How about it?
Yes. You like the proximity, you like the benefits of but for real, you really don't like me. And then I've had relationships where there wasn't really a falling out, but there was a falling away, maybe kind of growing a different way to come around full circle. And it's like, hey, can we have a conversation? And I shared real tears about a friendship that, my goodness, that went all the way back to high school. And
It's heartaches.
I don't think we talk enough about friendship breakdowns and how it feels like you're grieving a real death, but that person is still walking among us.
That's right.
Um,
Friendship
I,
breakup, that could be a whole master class and series because a business coach, and as you on these social media streets, it's 1,000 business coaches out there. And for some of us, what we need is a business midwife. We need someone that can help birth our becoming, pull it out of you. And that takes a special disposition. But when it comes to the friendship breakups, I think that they hurt almost more than the relationship breakup because you can point to some things, well, you did that, or perhaps we grew apart. But with your friend, I believe we intend that this is forever, that you're supposed to be forever. And it's funny that you meant, because I did on my talk show, we had an episode called How to Navigate Friendship Breakups. And we had 2 therapists and a woman's wellness coach talk about the navigation of friendships and the friendship breakups. And one of the things that slows us down on that is trying to figure out why. We get in that why loop. Why? And for many of us, We want closure.
Yeah, you do. And I think that's definitely a very valid desire. But I think sometimes we wrap up closure. We say we want closure, but what we really want is reconciliation. And we have to be honest with ourselves about that. I know that I've had some friend breakups that still to this day, I can think of them. You're two peas in a pod. That they're the first person you call when something happens, good or bad. And you can the mind is a funny thing because for a moment you can forget that there's been a break in that relationship, and then right for me, I'm right back at the beginning, grieving this friendship. And then grieving also, I found myself grieving when I was vulnerable with someone and I thought that it was safe to do that. And then they turn around and use those things as weapons against me. And I've just been learning to be really cautious because people are not always as they present to be. And they have ulterior motives. And that goes with friendships, that's business. I've been on the receiving end of business coaches, besties, stealing ideas and presenting them as their own. And it's heartbreaking because you come as a friend or you come as a mentor, or maybe I'm even paying you. And then you turn around and I'm looking like, just because you change the name of the service or the offer, I still know if you kidnap my child and you change her clothes and you change her hairstyle, I'm still gonna know my baby when I see her in the street. So it's been a faith walk for me this time around. I was looking at someone and I bought a service and I was like, wait a minute, this is not what I paid for. Wait, you just did all this with your rule. Lord. All right, I got it, just me and you. But the way that it's coming out has been so different. There's been an ease. There has not been any panic, any real frustration. And what I learned is something that a business coach tried to tell me wasn't true a few years ago, is that the women that I'm called to work with are not out here complaining about relationships. They're not concerned about pee in the dating pool. They're quietly sitting back and watching and seeing which voices resonate with them. And they may never comment, they may never like, but they tip into my DM or they're purchasing classes. And probably the craziest thing I ever endeavored to do was to be a business owner because I never saw myself doing this in a million years. What about you? Did you always want to be a business owner or was it something that just fell in your lap?
You know what? I think for me, everything that I have done, every business or live event that I produce, I've hosted poetry series for many years, and then networking came to be. It's always been a form of ministry for
Yes.
me. So
Yes.
that's really what it was. It just happened to fall into the jurisdiction of business. And I think that's why it was always a misalignment with me and many coaches because they treated business like corporate. And don't get me wrong, I mean, we have to have foundations and structures, absolutely. But
Absolutely.
if I'm not taking care of people first,
That leads me into my next question. When you're making decisions that affect more than just you, what anchors you?
well, you know what, good sis? Every decision I make impacts more than just me because of what I carry as a biz coach. There's an evolution that's happening right now. My work has really led me and anchored me into media. So with the podcast, I'm in my third season of Solo the Podcast. And I have a beautiful interview that I did with Dr. Norma Hollis, who's the godmother of authenticity, but started one of the first Black speaker bureaus. So holding that space of legacy, holding the wisdom, everything that I do, I believe is so much bigger than me. To the opportunities that I've had recently with Let's Talk About Health, where Movement is Life, which is a nonprofit organization that works on health disparities, Black and brown communities, rural communities, those who don't typically have the resources, they act as an advocate. So I feel extraordinarily blessed that not only do I get to hold and convene space that impacts more than just myself. Even recently, getting back from Denver, I was hired to bring unnetworking into the space. And in that space, we were attending our becoming. I felt more like a convener than a host. Felt the weight of people are sharing deep truths. People are sharing things that they maybe don't typically share with other people, especially in a room full of strangers. So The tone has to be adjusted, and there has to be reverence that can be felt, not just heard, but a reverence that has to be felt. So I truly believe that everything that I do, it is bigger than me. And so I have to go to the one that is bigger than me. I have to go to God, and I have to incline my ear, and I can't always move at the rate that everyone else moves. I can't move as fast, but my movements are precise.
That's a beautiful thing. How long did it take you to really understand that? Did it take you moving out of turn to understand that you needed to pay attention to what the pace that was said before you? How did you arrive there?
So in a book that has recently come out, it's called Modern Day High Priestess. So shout out to my 22 sister authors. We all wrote about essentially the dark night of the soul.
We always talk about we're standing on the shoulders of our ancestors, and I feel like none of that would have been possible without that foundation that they laid for us.
Mm.
It's a beautiful thing being able to understand those who came before us, to take the things that are good about those situations and multiply them and still learn from the difficult parts, because it's not always a pretty picture, but we can learn from every piece of it. And I love that no part of what we've gone through is wasted, because you honored your grandmother. Here, however many years later, you're still honoring her and learning from her story.
Absolutely. We are the ones that are healing generational curses. Poetry and writing is something that has been passed down to me from one generation to the next, but I'm the one that's able to publish. I'm the one that's able to put it in book form. I'm the one that's able to not just live through it, but also monetize from it, but also help assist and support other women to tell their stories through the podcast. So it didn't start with me, but I'm so grateful that it gets to continue through me.
Yeah, I know they're so proud of you. I love it. Was there a time when you knew what was right for you but didn't honor it?
Oh gosh. Yes. Was my last year of teaching as a full-time teacher. I was a Spanish teacher, high school Spanish teacher. And I knew going into the office when I signed the contract that it wasn't, I said, "Mm-mm," but I was just afraid. I didn't know how I was going to be able to make money. A lot of things were a little half baked. I had some coaching clients. I had the Power of Girlhood, which is a girls leadership program. I had mentoring program for young girls, and of course, I had the poetry. But nothing at that time was secure enough to lead to, in my mind, secure enough to leave. Because when I did leave in 2019, around the corner was the pandemic. So here I am. I left what I thought was secure. But the truth of the matter is, the only thing that's secure is God. That's the only place that we can put our security in. I knew it, I felt it. And then I knew that I either had two options. I could go or they could fire me. And that was the way it was going to go.
What finally made you recognize you were overextending? And what did you change?
I think the realization of overextending was a pattern. I think that many of us are high functioning just because we have to be the mothers, the breadwinners, the caregivers, all of it. And I realized as I'm caring for a father with dementia, I felt like in many ways I lost two parents because my mother passed and then my father's dementia just became more pronounced. So I realized that I was over giving by the fatigue in my own body. I could feel it, not feeling like myself. So what I did about it, I said, you know what? We're going to therapy.
Yes.
I was in therapy 2 times a week.
Mm.
Yep, Monday and Friday. I said, we're going to start the week with therapy. We're going to end the week with therapy. And then eventually we went down to once a week. And now we're down to every other week. But here's the thing. Grief is heavy. And who said that you had to carry it by yourself?
That's so true.
And it's like, why do we do this to her? And I believe that we, as Black women especially, have bought into the notion that we can do everything. And just because you can do a thing doesn't mean that you need to.
I feel like we, especially, well, generations before us, for sure, bottled up their emotions. And I always tell people when they experience a loss, give yourself permission to feel how you feel. Remember my mom, when my grandmother died, I never saw her cry. She immediately went into handling the business of funeral arrangements and all those things. But in the years that passed, it was harder for her, and I think that it's because she didn't take the time to grieve properly.
That part. If you don't, it will rear its head.
Absolutely.
If you don't give yourself time and space to grieve, and grieving is natural. It shows you how deep you love someone.
Absolutely.
We're now moving into that transitional elder big mama age, our rich auntie era.
Exactly.
So now we get to take the lessons that we've learned from our elders, for better or for worse. We can take what worked and what didn't, but I would definitely say honesty and truth telling and self love and compassion. But again, if they were never taught it, they can't give you a lesson that they never learned.
The reality is that our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers did not have the luxury of being a soft damsel in distress because
Mm-mm.
they would have been eaten alive.
Right?
And
That
so
is so
now we're all wanting this soft life, but the soft life requires hard work first. Then you can have the soft life. But I think that they did the best that they could have done with what they had. And when we see it that way, I think that every generation gets better. And how it's to be. It's how it's
and
supposed
I think that we have to get to an understanding that we deserve the soft life.
to be. Because we think we have to earn rest. You think you have to constantly be moving. No, you can sit down with a snuggie and veg out in front of the TV.
Yes, you
That's
can.
perfectly okay. You can
And
spend
yes,
all day in bed if you want to.
yes, you can.
The dishes can wait. The
They can.
laundry can wait. It's
And they
not the
can.
end of the world. I listen to my body. I work a 9 to 5. Off days are Sundays and Mondays. Yesterday, I lay in bed all day, scrolling on, looking at binging TV shows. I took a shower and put on clean pajamas and went to bed. And I feel no guilt about it
Good.
because we have to
Good.
listen to our bodies,
We
rest. We don't have to earn it.
mhm.
That's definitely our birthright. What did you have to unlearn about showing up for others that changed how you show up for yourself?
That others are not always going to show up for me the way that I show up for them. There is a certain level of commitment and excellence that are apparent for this season that some people just aren't they're not meant to come with me into the next leg of the journey. And it doesn't necessarily mean grander or bigger. It just means precise, more refined. I know that in this season, I have named it. It can be easy. It can be easy. If it's too much friction, I don't care how popular or how quote unquote lucrative, the soul tax is just it's too high a price to pay. There is nobody on this planet that can put me in the right position. Not one person.
Right. And a lot of times I think we slow our progression because you have a big heart and you want everybody to win and you're trying to take everybody with you. And I remember my first life coach talking about a friendship and I wanted so
Yes,
much
yes,
better
yes,
for
friend.
her. What'd you say? And I was telling her about this friendship and I wanted so much better for her, but she was kind of just okay with whatever. And she said, Arnitris, you cannot run your life's race holding hands with someone who's standing still. She said, you're going to have to drag them along with you. You're going to have to stand still with them, or you're going to have to let their hands go. And I was like, wow. And I didn't listen. I still tried to drag her along for another 5 or 6 years. And at the moment, I remember having a dream. God always speaks to me in dreams.
Indeed.
And I had a dream that she had a gun and she was trying to kill herself. And we were fighting over the gun. And God just said, take your hands off. And I woke up out of the dream, what in the world? But I understood exactly what it meant. I can't force her. If this is what she wants to do, whatever it is, didn't mean she was physically going to kill herself, but she was doing herself harm. And I was trying to get in the way of it. And then I still didn't sever the ties. Maybe if I had stepped away when I was supposed to, then there could have still been room for some kind of reconciliation years later.
And when you look at your own trajectory, and not even just your own trajectory, if you look at what's required for the call that you have on your life, you stop minimizing how important you are, how important your time, how important the resources that are given to you. But I think even deeper, the relationships. Is this relationship helping to propel me forward, or is this relationship stifling me? And sometimes you love your friends and you want to support them and you have opportunities and you present them and maybe they don't make good on them, or maybe I can't keep referring.
Because now at this point, now that's a reflection on my brand, on me and my brand. And one of the questions that I've been asking myself, because my birthday is coming up in July and I always do these audits, and I'll ask myself, if I met this person today, would I be friends with them? And for
Mm.
some of those relationships, the answer is no. When I met them, I was in a different mind space, and some of the things that we did were okay, but now it's like I have no desire to go to brunch every weekend. I got to build this landing page. And I
You
think it's an
that you
important
brought up
question to what'd you say?
I said it's funny that you brought up brunch because you made me think about brunch, how we prioritize brunch. And I lost 75 pounds.
Patience.
Thank you. And I remember my sister made an observation about how she noticed that I guess the wine in the house just really hasn't been disappearing, or like it's just been maybe laying around because I haven't been drinking and I haven't been going to brunch. Really,
Not
I've been
really
treating it
any
like,
healthy options
yes,
when you go to
no,
brunch.
no. And if you do, let's be honest, you gonna eat the bacon.
Chicken and waffles, pancakes,
Listen,
all of that.
and what I noticed was you've been making different choices.
Beautiful thing that when something looks right on paper but doesn't feel right in your spirit, how do you handle that tension?
I sit with it. I talk to it. I talk to the feeling or the emotion as if it was a person and ask it, what does it want to teach me?
It took me a while to get there. Because sometimes you can look at circumstances and it's like, oh my God. No, you're not looking at the bigger picture. Because like I said earlier, nothing is lost. Every in our journey had a purpose.
Absolutely.
And I tell my friends often, this pain is gonna pay me one way
Mhm.
or the other. I'm
I love,
gonna get paid out of this pain.
I like that. It's going to pay me. I really do.
So I want to shift gears for just a little bit. And I want to play a little game. And it's called instant knowing. I'm going to give you a couple of choices and I want your first instinct. No overthinking, just what comes up. You ready?
Yes.
Let's play Inner Knowing.
Immediate connection or
Slow build,
consistency or intensity,
consistency,
peace or passion,
passion,
being understood or
being desired,
trust words or
trust pattern,
hold on or
release,
safe or challenged,
safe.
love that feels easy or love requires.
Love that feels easy.
And that just goes back to what you said earlier about if there's too much friction. This time around, I'm learning that love doesn't have to have all that friction.
Oh, God. No.
Easy, and it's so much so that didn't even know that I was falling in love with Honey because there was no drama. It was just peace. I was like, wait a minute, is this how it's supposed to be? Because I remember feeling just like I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. But it doesn't have to be all of that drama. And a lot of times, I remember talking to a client, and she had gone out on a date, and the date went fine, but she said that there were no fireworks. She didn't feel any butterflies. I was like, "Do you want love or you want the flu?" Well, the butterflies sound like the flu. You want calm and steady. Fireworks are pretty. They're beautiful. We love to see them, but they don't last long. And it's the same thing with a relationship. You got the fireworks and it's big and it's bright and it's pretty for a while and they fizz out and all you left with smoke. And she gave it another shot. They're actually married now. But after that first date, she was like, I ain't feeling any butterflies. Like, girl, whatever. Where do you feel like your instincts have become sharper over time?
Ooh, I'm getting ready to turn 46. They're like, oh, we good and grown. And so I think as I get older, my instincts they just get so much sharper. And I believe my mother told me your intuition will get stronger the older you get. And the older I get, she's so right now, I rely on instinct. I rely on, let me sit with it. And if it's then it's a no for me. And sometimes I'll be like, not this season. It's not a no, but it's yes, it's a not. So there's this dance that I'm seeing God and I are doing, and it's have such a strong lead. So literally, God will twirl me this way and twirl me that way and go this way and don't go that way. And it's just, I even hear love songs differently. I was listening to Stephanie Mills. I never knew a love like this before.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
when you in love under new management, it sounds different.
It's funny because I listen to some of those songs now, and I'm like, I had no business singing this at that young age. I remember "As We Lay" by Shirley Murdoch just singing out my
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh
my
my
4th
goodness.
grade heart was just heartbroken over somebody else's husband. I had no business singing this song. But as we get older and we start to listen to songs and you hear them differently, and that
You live a little bit more life. And so now you
mhm.
have context for things. God is so patient and kind and loving and corrective. And
If a woman is in a season of becoming, what would you want her to remember?
your root in the season of becoming, you will be pruned, the wind will blow, things will come, but root deeply. Remember your center and live from that place. And that bigger doesn't always mean better. You can do more when it's precise and it's God ordained.
Thank you so much for joining me for this conversation, Ber-Henda. I want you, before we wrap, I want you to let people know what you're working on, how they can find you on social media, and anything that you have coming up.
Yes. So for all things Ber-Henda events and wisdom and support, I do it on Substack. So you can go to my Substack under Ber-Henda Williams. I have a soft power Sunday. So I have a revelation, whatever God gives me. This month is all about refinement. April has been all about recalibration, refinement. So you can head over to my Substack. That's one of the ways that you can tap into the community and support the work by becoming a Substack patron. And then coming up, book signing. I'm part of a 22 women anthology, and I'm super excited about that. So that's happening as well. But you can follow me on all social medias under Ber-Henda Williams. So that's Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook. I am on TikTok. I don't show up there as much, but I'm definitely, you really want to lock into me, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook.
All right, I love it. So again, thank you so much for joining me for the conversation. I'm going to stop the recording.
Okay.
I love it. I don't know. These conversations always end up feeling like I'm talking to an old friend, and we can go on for hours.
Visibility doesn't happen by accident. The women making the greatest impact aren't simply doing great work. They're ensuring that great work can be seen.
Ber-Henda begins this conversation with a simple but profound observation. Every time she ignores what she already knows, there's a cost. As leaders, we're often praised for gathering information, weighing options, and making thoughtful decisions. But over time, experience teaches us that not every decision requires more information. Sometimes it requires more trust. The same principle shows up in our relationships. Many of us don't miss the red flags. We notice the inconsistency. We feel the hesitation. We recognize when something no longer aligns. The difficult part isn't in recognition, it's accepting what recognition requires. Whether it's a friendship, a business opportunity, or a romantic relationship, the cost rarely comes from what we didn't know. More often, it comes from ignoring what we already did. Throughout this conversation, Ber-Henda returned to the idea of refinement. In business, growth isn't always measured by what we add. Sometimes it's measured by what we're willing to release. The same is true in our relationships. As we grow, our capacity changes, our priorities change. Even the way we spend our time and emotional energy begins to shift. That doesn't make every relationship wrong, but it may mean some relationships no longer fit the season you're entering. Ber-Henda described it as a soul tax, the hidden cost of carrying people, opportunities, or expectations that require more than they return. Growth isn't always about expanding your circle. Sometimes it's about protecting your peace enough to become the person your next season requires. Maybe the most unexpected lesson from this conversation came in just 4 words: it can be easy. For many of us, that idea feels almost unfamiliar. We've learned to associate struggle with significance. We assume that if something matters, it must constantly demand more of us. But Ber-Henda offer a different perspective. When something consistently costs your peace, your energy, and your sense of self, it's worth asking whether the price is simply too high. The healthiest relationships, whether personal or professional, don't require us to betray ourselves in order to maintain them. Sometimes peace isn't a sign that you're settling. Sometimes it's a sign that you finally stop forcing what was never meant to be difficult. Every conversation on executive lessons in love reminds us that success isn't measured only by what we build. It's also shaped by what we're willing to trust, what we're willing to release, and the peace we're willing to receive. My thanks to Ber-Henda Williams for reminding us that becoming doesn't always require striving. Sometimes it begins by trusting what you've known all along, letting go of what no longer belongs, and allowing your next season to unfold with greater intention than force. Thank you for joining me for Executive Lessons in Love.